Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going over the topic of we are living in the final 40 years of Earth's history. Now, I took these notes from Prophesy Again TV because there are some notes that touch upon a subject I really wanted to talk about, which was worldly education causing people to be deceived, as it did in the old time when it came to the Lord's first advent. It's also going to be the same thing happening later on. So, to continue through, you guys can see the notes here, and the notes will be explained further as we go along. So, remember the former things of old. For I am God, and there is none else. I am God, and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. Isaiah chapter 46, verse 9 through 10. So we know the Bible is inspired because of history and current events fulfilling Bible prophecy. Now I tell you before it come, that when it is come to pass, ye may believe that I am he. John chapter 13, verse 19. And now I have told you before it come to pass, that when it is come to pass, ye might believe. John chapter 14, verse 29. Let's now listen to what John the Baptist says after he was put in prison and began to doubt that Christ was indeed the Messiah because he did not come and deliver him from prison. Now when John had heard in the prison the works of Christ, he sent two of his disciples, and said unto him, art thou he that should come, or do we look for another? Jesus answered and said unto them, go and show John again those things which ye do hear and see. The blind receive their sight, and the lame walk. The lepers are cleansed, and the deaf hear. The dead are raised up, and the poor have the gospel preached to them. And blessed is he whosoever shall not be offended in me. Matthew chapter 11, verse 2 through 6. Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf shall be unstopped. Then shall the lame man leap as a hart, and the tongue of the dumb sing. For in the wilderness shall waters break out, and streams in the desert. Isaiah chapter 35, verse 5 through 6. This was also part of the note, but didn't really get into. But yeah, really just continuing on from the chapter of Matthew here, but still don't disregard what is said here in Isaiah. What was Jesus trying to say to John here? He was showing him that what he was doing was the current events fulfilling the prophecies. Christ could have just said, quote, I am he, end quote. But he rested the faith of John the Baptist on the word, the prophecies. So we can see here, earthquake that changed history, BBC real. Okay? And we have a comment from the Great Controversy from Sister White that says, in fulfillment of this prophecy, there occurred, in the year 1755, the most terrible earthquake that has ever been recorded, though commonly known as the earthquake of Lisbon. It extended to the greater part of Europe, Africa, and America. It was felt in Greenland, in the West Indies, in the island of Madeira, you guys know that word, in Norway and Sweden, Great Britain and Ireland. It pervaded an extent of not less than 4 million square miles. In those days, after that tribulation, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. Mark chapter 13, verse 24. The 1,260 days, or years, terminated in 1798. A quarter of a century earlier, persecution had almost wholly ceased. Following this persecution, according to the words of Christ, the sun was to be darkened. On the 19th of May in 1780, this prophecy was fulfilled. Said Jesus, quote, "The stars shall fall from heaven," end quote, Matthew chapter 24, verse 29. And John in the Revelation declared, as he beheld in vision the scenes that should herald the day of God, quote, "The stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs, when she is shaken of a mighty wind," end quote. Revelation chapter 6, verse 13. This prophecy received a striking and impressive fulfillment in the great meteoric shower of November 13, 1833. That was the most extensive and wonderful display of falling stars which has ever been recorded. Quote, "The whole firmament over all the United States being then for hours in fiery commotion." End quote. So now we go to the next note. Revelation chapter, I think I put it here. Yeah. Okay, so you guys can take a mental note of this note that I screenshotted. Is going to be talking about the earthquake, sun, and moon, and stuff. So, as you can see, the earthquake that was prophesied about happened in November 1st, 1755. The sun becomes black in May 19, 1780. Moon become as blood. The fifth, which I imagine is the fifth, is January, February, March, April, May 19, 1780. Is my mic good? I had to double check if my mic was okay. So stars fell in November 13, 1833. Okay. So now let's read what's under this note. Luke gives us the events in order before the second coming. Because remember, this is supposed to repeat later on. But anyway, "And I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs, when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, Fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand?" Revelation chapter 6, verse 12 through 17. And I put a note here to emphasize again, going through the exact same scriptures, but from 14 to 17. And this is talking about the second coming. Because again, like I said earlier, the way that the stars and everything happened is going to happen again. We know Christ has not returned yet. So the question now is, what are the events between this point? So you can see this screenshot here. And it's talking about how Luke put the events in order and to why. So we're going to go into that right now. So, even as they delivered them unto us, which from the beginning were eyewitnesses and ministers of the word, it seemed good to me also, having had perfect understanding of all things from the very first, to write unto thee in order, most excellent Theophilus, that thou mightest know the certainty of those things wherein thou hast been instructed. Luke chapter 1, verse 2 through 4. But Peter rehearsed the matter from the beginning and expounded it by order unto them, saying, Acts, so this is Acts chapter 11, verse 4, continuing on, "A land of darkness, as darkness itself, and of the shadow of death without any order, and where the light is as darkness. Job chapter 10, verse 22. So these scriptures are talking about having these events be talked about in order, because order brings the light. Having disorder is darkness, it's confusion. It's confusion, it's darkness. Better send that order. Yeah. Where there is no order, there's darkness. The light is there and is teaching end time prophecies. But if you teach these things in randomness, shuffling them, the light the people are listening to will be as darkness. That's why Luke did these teachings in order. So, again, as you can see here, Luke chapter 21, I'll just go ahead and read that right now. And great earthquakes shall be in divers places, and famines and pestilences, and fearful sights and great signs shall be there from heaven. Luke chapter 21, verse 11. And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. Luke chapter 21, verse 25. So we can see again, sun talking about 1780, moon 1780, and the stars 1833. This is where John stopped and says, the second coming then happens. Okay. And then we can see as the notes here continue on, distress of nations equal World War One, which is, I think this is, I have it noted down here, I believe. Yeah, okay. So you can just take a mental note of this screenshot again. So, note, don't need to reread the scriptures, just putting them here again to show the emphasis on the words we're looking for in them. So, as we already read in Luke chapter 21, verse 11, great earthquakes. And then Luke chapter 21, verse 25, signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars. So, note too, World War I began in 1914, Great Depression began in 1929, and World War II ended in 1945. So, Luke chapter 21, verse 25 is talking about sea and waves roaring. This is talking about climate change, global warming, sea level rising. And there shall be, well, we already read the scripture, but yeah, you can see in the scripture of Luke chapter 21, verse 25, talks about the sea and the waves roaring. Note, sea in prophecy is another meaning for people. Note 2, the sign for the sun, moon, and stars are literal. Are these events happening in one nation or worldwide? It's happening worldwide. When will we see nations begin to speak about the sea? The sea and waves roaring brings us to climate change in connection to global warming. They also talk about sea level rising, as we can see in this note here. Conventionally, the term is reserved for two major internal conflicts that occurred during the first half of the 20th century, World War I. I'm just going to skip along here. Although some historians have also characterized other global conflicts as world wars, such as 9 Years' War, the war and it continues, the longest 1929 to 1941, the longest and deepest downturn in the history of the United States and the modern industrial economy, lasted more than a decade, beginning in 1929 and ending during World War II in 1941. Regarding the Great Depression, we did it. We're very sorry. The Federal Reserve history, the Great Depression history. So this is just going over the dates again of when these events occurred. So this is the Cold War, which was March 12, 1947, all the way through December 26, 1991. The Cold War was a period of global geopolitical tension and struggle for ideological and economic influence between the United States and the Soviet Union, which is also known as the USSR, and their respective allies, the Western Bloc and the Eastern Bloc, that started in 1947, 2 years after the World War II, after the end of World War II, and lasted until the fall. So now, second sentence of the first section. So we're pretty much just gonna read this block. The first section of the UNFCCC Story Gallery tells the story of the history of the climate change negotiation process. The story starts with the first World Climate Conference, sponsored by the World Meteorological Organization, the WMO, held in February 1979, which was the first major international scientific gathering to discuss human induced climate change. The exhibit uses documents, photographs, and artifacts to explain the progress made from these early climate conferences. Okay? This is connected to sea level rise. Finally, on global agenda, General Assembly hears as world leaders urge action to turn tide. So I'm just gonna read the red underline because you guys can just go ahead and like pause and just read everything else yourself. This event finally places sea level rise at the top of the international agenda and marks the takeoff for global efforts to shape an ambitious assembly declaration in September 2026. Okay. The Bible is proving it's indeed inspired by God because it's not going by random events. It's telling us the order of how these events will come in. Men's hearts failing them for fear, for and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of heaven shall be shaken. Luke chapter 21, verse 26. This is men's hearts failing them for fear. These men, these people are global. What does fear mean in this context? Fear means terror, as well as terrorism. The global war on terror. Global War on Terror. The Global War on Terror is an international American led military campaign launched following the September 11th, 2001 terrorist attacks. Note: the KJV Bible was published in 1611. Technically, it was made before. How would Luke have known all these events would happen in order? Because the Bible is inspired. Again, Isaiah chapter 46, verse 9 through 10. Which we read before. You guys can stop and read that again if you'd like. Continuing on. So now, and they shall see. You guys can also like stop here and take a note of this screenshot if you'd like. But continuing on now. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. Luke chapter 21, verse 27 through 28. So that's talking about the second coming, and it's happening after these events. We are living in the generation that are seeing these last signs. So likewise, when ye see these things come to pass, know ye that the kingdom of God is nigh at hand. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away till all be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. Luke chapter 21, verse 31 through 33. 40 years long was I grieved with this generation, and said, it is a people that do err in their heart, and they have not known my ways. Psalm chapter 95, verse 10. Wherefore I was grieved with that generation, and said, they do always err in their heart, and they have not known my ways. Hebrews chapter 3, verse 10. For he will finish the work and cut it short in righteousness, because a short work will the Lord make upon the earth. And Esaias said before, except the Lord of Sabaoth had let us a seed, had left us a seed, we had been as Sodoma, and been made like unto Gomorrah or Gomorrah. Romans chapter 9, verse 28 through 29. Note, this isn't saying that's the year Christ comes back, but this is showing we are indeed living in the final generation. If you guys are wondering what I'm talking about, just again look at the very bottom here where it says 2041, the final generation. We are in that time frame. That's not a date set up, that's a time frame. And there's also other studies to further prove this, but that's for another time. And as well as the fact that these are just me taking notes, but I'm pretty sure I took notes on the other stuff, on the other documents and stuff talking about this stuff. But anyway, continuing on. So, we must get ready now. Another thing to notice, plan of salvation time frame. The plan of salvation is limited to 6,000 years. First Advent benchmark, at the time of Christ's first advent, the world was at the 4,000th year mark. 27 AD was the baptism of Christ. 31 AD, the crucifixion of Christ. Biblical typology, the 6,000 year plan correlates with the 6 days of creation, laboring, followed by a 7th day of rest. Reference 2 Peter. I don't know why I put the word second. It's 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 3 through 9. 1 day in creation represents 1,000 years. Second millennium rest. The final 1,000 years of the 7,000 year cycle corresponds to the great millennium in heaven. Chronological estimation. So base 27 AD baptism plus 2,000 years, that would get us to 2027 AD. Base 31 AD crucifixion plus 2,000 years equals 2031 AD. Conclusion, we are currently within this specific time period. Immediate preparation is required. And again, there's multiple studies that goes into this, but not talking about this right now. And we have another note here, talking about preparation, temperance, watch and pray, and the encouragement for country living and not staying in the cities. You really do not want to be in the cities when the Mark of the Beast event happens. And take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness and cares of this life, and so that day come upon you unawares. For as a snare shall it come on all of them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. Watch ye therefore, and pray always, that ye may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man. Luke chapter 21, verse 34 through 36. This is talking about, again, preparation. What is the work of preparation? Jesus says we must be found temperate in all things. Okay, I should have said this at the very beginning, because this is where you're going to start maybe seeing these types of lines where it's like these are noted in like black background and stuff. I decided that if I'm going to make these studies a little bit faster, I could use AI that is attached to the YouTube videos to like help give these notes and stuff from what is said at certain times and segments in the video, and just like just give it like that instead of me having to type everything out. Because if I was to do that, this video would not be out right now. It would take way too long, and I like this to happen a little bit sooner. So having AI be useful in this way is pretty good. So anyway, Requirement of temperance. Faithfulness in the last days involves practicing temperance in all things. Avoidance of harmful substances. Abstinence from liquor, coffee, and other stimulants is advised. Dangers of overeating. Indulgence of appetite, including overeating and snacking between regular meals, acts as a sin that numbs the mind, fetters the soul, and diverts energy from vital organs to the stomach, leading to physical lethargy. The Bible teaches us to not worry about the cares of this life. Quote, put pep in your step, end quote. Pep means patience, endurance, and prayer, with a song slash hymns. And in the day and in the daytime he was teaching in the temple, and at night he went out and abode in the mount that is called the Mount of Olives. Luke chapter 21, verse 37. Watch what? Watch the eyes on the times, prophecy, and current events. Watch your heart, self examination. Go comparing yourself to God's character, because it's God's characteristics that we are supposed to obtain by faith. Go praying for God to recreate his image in me. Watch others. Help others around you who are willing to get ready. Christ was living in the mountains. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. Luke chapter 21, verse 20 through 22. Again, the mountains is talking about country living. I have a whole series talking about country living, and I can leave that in the description, and it'll maybe pop up on the video at the very end. So don't click off immediately. You could just click the playlist and you can listen to the country living stuff. But yes, the mountains is talking about country living. From what Sister White taught is that we want to be living in the countryside, where and living in houses where we're not close to other houses, because those other houses could be neighbors who could end up being your enemies, who sell you out and stuff like that. So you want to be in a house where you have land, you have no neighbors close by, um, and it's like more of an environment where it's you and nature, and it's God's presence that's going to be there. Okay, that's way better than the city, and those are just saying some things, because like again, the whole country living stuff um goes way more into the subject than what I just said. But anyway, so remember, the first key of survival is being converted. The second key is moving to the mountains, country living. You know what? I should really do this. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna make an edit in this real quick. All right. So again, as we can see in the first key of survival is being converted. We can just go through all the keys here. So the first key is conversion, which is repentance, faith, obedience to God's word. Second is country living, get out of the cities. Number three, having food, water, and resources, self-sustaining housestead. Number four, evangelism, so sharing the truth with others. You can even do this online as well. If you, yeah. Number five, but it's more effective to do it like in person and stuff like that. But number five, assisting the less fortunate, and the bartering system, which is supporting others. And watch and pray and trust in God. So the second key is moving to the mountains, country living. So now we see the leopard, the beast, the blasphemies, and other stuff. So now let's get into the next part. Leopard, and he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Revelation chapter 13, verse 12. Beast. These great beasts, which are four kings which shall arise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth, and that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down, and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them. And he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. Daniel chapter 7, verse 17 through 24. Blasphemes God. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority. Revelation chapter 13, verse 1 through 2. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. Revelation chapter 13, verse 6. Blasphemy. I and my Father are one. Then the Jews took up stones again to stone him. Jesus answered them, many good works have I showed you from my Father. For which of those works do ye stone me? The Jews answered him, saying, for a good work we stone thee not, but for blasphemy, and because that thou, being a man, makest thyself God. John chapter 10, verse 30 through 33. I should underline that real quick. When Jesus saw their faith, he saith unto the sick of the palsy, son, thy sins be forgiven thee. But there was a certain in the scribes sitting there, and reasoning in their hearts, why doth this man thus speak blasphemies? Who can forgive sins but God only? Mark chapter 2, verse 5 through 7. The leopard, it does not change. Talking about its spots. Can the Ethiopian change his skin, or the leopard his spots? Then may ye also do good that are accustomed to do evil. Jeremiah chapter 13, verse 23. So the primary focus on the body, when viewing from a distance, the larger area of the body is the first detail identified, making the leopard's physical traits significant to the symbolism. The unchanging nature of the leopard does not change its spots. This symbolizes that the papacy will not change, as referenced in Jeremiah chapter 13, verse 23. Correction of misconceptions. While it is suggested that the papacy has changed, the nature of the leopard confirms that it cannot. The Ethiopian cannot change the color of his skin, and the leopard cannot change its spots. Similarly, the papacy remains constant in its character. So the whole front of the goodness and all that the papacy throws out in the world today is basically a facade. Leopard equals Greece. In the first year, I should put this down further, actually. Yeah, there we go. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the 4 winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea. And four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse from one another. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man. And a man's heart was given to it. And behold, another beast, a second like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, uh, and it had three ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of its four wings of a fowl. The beast had also four heads, and dominion was given to it. I probably should have just underlined this, by the way, in context of what we're talking about. After I saw this in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came upon them another little horn, before whom there were three of the first horns plucked up by the roots, and behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. Daniel chapter 7, verse 1 through 8. Greece, now this is this is one of the main reasons why I really wanted to share this today, for another reason. Greece is known for education. For after that, in the wisdom of God, the world by wisdom knew not God. It pleased God by the foolishness of preaching to save them that believe. For the Jews require a sign, and the Greeks seek after wisdom. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 21 through 22. So what caused the people at the first advent to reject Christ at the first advent? The reason a lot of people denied Christ at his first advent was due to worldly wisdom. Do not let your children go out to receive worldly education. Greece is known for worldly education. Now, there's another study that I didn't take notes for just yet, but it goes a lot more into this. And this is one of the main reasons why I stopped going to college and why I have no intention of going back. Literally, this was one of the main reasons. Is because it's not only a waste of time, especially here in Brampton, because like you getting a job here in Brampton as a born here Canadian and being a black guy, it is not easy to get a job here in Brampton. I'll leave it there. So whether I finish college or not, like I already knew I was wasting my time with that here. And then also hearing and seeing that worldly wisdom is like basically a huge time waste and can even deceive you from the knowledge of God and stuff like that. Like I have more personal reasons as to why, but like this was one of the main things that made me stop going to college, and I have no intention of going back. I've had my mom and even my dad, who used to ask me this if I was going to go back, and should. This is one of the main reasons why. Although my dad, as of recent years, stopped asking me that, I'm guessing maybe he heard something like this, and that's why he stopped asking me. I'm not really sure, but yeah. What country was the center of the world's education when Alexander the Great from Greece ruled the world? Alexandria, Egypt. That was the seat of education. Leopard, Greece, education. If you want to see, hold up. If you want to see how popery is moving, you must look at education. Where do Jesuits linger and dwell? Schools, education. Georgetown is one example found in America. So you can see this picture here. You guys can pause it if you want. And this is talking about the state's pushing to allow religion in public schools. That's not a good thing. People might think it is, it's really not. So, as you can see in this note here, there's no place in America of greater importance than Washington. And then I'm just reading the red lines because it's a lot. Evangelists should be finding their way into all the places where the minds of men are agitated over the question of Sunday legislation and of the teaching of religion in the public schools. And it even mentions Seventh-day Adventists here, which it is the neglect of Seventh-day Adventists to improve these providential opportunities to prevent the truth that burdens my heart and keeps me awake at night. Keeps me awake night after night. So once legislation is in schools, then the next legislation becomes the Sunday law. So here we have Kevin Roberts talking to somebody, and this is what these are the notes from that talk. Summary. The speaker notes that Kevin Roberts, associated with Heritage Foundation, was on recording discussing the project, talking about Project 2025, as it says here, even while others sought to distance themselves from it during the political season. The discussion highlights that while President Trump may have viewed the project's branding as a political liability, Roberts anticipates that the administration will ultimately utilize the policy-making framework Project 2025 provides. The segment emphasizes that Project 2025 represents the conservative movement's agenda for implementing specific policies regarding education, the border, and other key areas. The Cowboy Catholic, which is another name for Kevin Roberts. Again, we're just going to go and read the red here. The country's biggest, richest, and arguably most influential conservative think tank. This is connected to Kevin Roberts saying, again, summary from the AI, God's timeline. He emphasizes, this is the AI summarizing what Kevin Roberts is saying. God's timeline. He emphasizes that although time feels short, humanity is currently operating on God's timeline. Long-term perspective. He notes that the quote-unquote mother church, the papacy, does not operate according to standard election cycles, days, or months. Instead, the church thinks in terms of centuries and millennia. Notice him saying mother church. He's speaking about the Roman Catholic Church. What does the Bible say about her? And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Revelation chapter 17, verse 5. Furthermore, Kevin Roberts says, summary, policy focus. He states that Heritage is zealously focused on policy outcomes rather than individual election cycles. Electoral significance. He acknowledges that because policy outcomes are often determined by the winners of elections, they still have to pay close attention to political races. Organizational challenge. He describes the core challenge for their group as feeling as though Rome, quote, Rome is on fire, end quote, while working in Washington. Note from what the pastor says. The focus is on controlling policymakers to facilitate the integration of Roman Catholic teachings into America. Abraham Lincoln. This is a quote from Abraham Lincoln, and I do think is a good idea to read this whole thing. It is a very important quote from Abraham Lincoln. Quote, if the American people could learn what I know of the fierce hatred of the priests of Rome against our institutions, our schools, our most sacred rights, and our so dearly bought liberties, they would drive them away tomorrow from among us, and they would shoot them as traitors, end quote. Quote, I know that Jesuits never forget nor forsake, but man must not care how or where he dies, provided he dies at the post of honor and duty, end quote. 50 Years in the Church of Rome, pages 697. You guys got the rest. So even Abraham Lincoln was warning people about the papacy, that they will drive away your rights. And what are they doing slowly but surely right now? You can see that they are working behind men in the government to put these laws in order to strip people from their rights. You can even see people talking about how how it seems like some of the laws and stuff that are trying to be implemented are looking to do away with the amendments, like the First Amendment and stuff like that. But that's a topic for another day. Continuing on, Trump's very Catholic cabinet. Donald Trump's second term administration is taking shape, and thus far, it's turned out to be impressively Catholic in its approach. And you guys can read the rest. Roman Catholic principles will be taken under the care and protection of the state. This national apostasy will speedily be followed by national ruin. This is commentary. They continue to speak. So this is another video clip from Kevin Roberts. Summary. They touch upon the idea of leveraging influence to shape policy, noticing that organizations like the Heritage Foundation are deeply committed to driving long-term changes rather than just focusing on single election cycles. The conversation reflects on the urgency and strategic nature of their work, emphasizing the need to be proactive in policy making to ensure their goals are met in the long run. There is a recurring theme of operating within a system to effect change, highlighting the interplay between conservative ideals and the mechanisms of government in Washington. More signs of the times to be aware of. This is the book, by the way, Kevin is talking about. So talking about Dawn's Early Light and stuff. And yeah, so that's the book he's promoting. And I'm just going to read the red underline. We are now all realizing that it's time to circle the wagons and load the muskets. In the fights that lay ahead, these ideas are an essential weapon. And I'm just going to read furthermore of what the book is saying. Just reading the yellow stuff, the yellow highlighted. I don't think we will succeed without the return of practice absolutely antithetical to everything the CCP and its Uni-Party sympathizers stand for: widespread and prominent public prayer. To restore public prayer to a place of prominence, to take a moment for prayer before football games, to have prominent leaders, including our president, not just issuing the occasional prayer proclamation, but actually publicly taking a knee before Almighty God, as Washington did, to begin school days again with prayer enabled by school choice legislation, would be to once again properly acknowledge our gratitude to God and humbly seek his assistance in our struggle to restore vitality to our nation. Public prayer has another value as a kind of shibboleth. If an American institution is incompatible with or contemptuous of public prayer, I would be hard pressed to believe that it should not simply be burned down for the common good. They are calling for public prayer in public schools. This is the leper like beast at work. Every time church and state come together, it always ends up bad. So, looking at how this happened in the past, Bible and history, you can see it'll happen again no matter what they are trying to do differently. Rights and freedoms are going to be persecuted by the policies of these statemen when they get together with the church, Mother Church, aka Babylon the Great, Mother Whore. Bringing in the Ten Commandments into public school violates the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. When they bring in the Ten Commandments, they are establishing the quote-unquote Christian religion. Spiritual warfare and resistance. Kevin Roberts argues that spiritual warfare necessitates spiritual resistance, asserting that success is unlikely without the return of prominent public prayer, a practice he describes as antithetical to the approach seen in China. So this is another thing when it comes to current events and stuff. You'll see that America is trying to model a lot of things, especially AI, after China. Restoration of public prayer. The goal is to restore public prayer to a position of prominence, including moments of prayer before football games and having prominent leaders. But basically, you guys already heard what I said on this reading it, right? It's just this is just a summary of that. So you don't actually need to read this, but you can pause and take note of this if you want to, if you want like a summary of what was said there. So you guys can pause here and take a picture if you want. I hope this mic is still taking my voice well. Otherwise, I'm probably going to have to get a new one, but hopefully it's fine. Anyway, so Romans 13. Civil authority. So the Bible teaches in Romans chapter 13 that civil authority has no jurisdiction over man and God. Jurisdiction meaning the official power to make legal decisions and judgments. Violation of the First Amendment. Okay, I should have bolded these. I'll do that real quick just so like it's easier on the eyes as we're reading through this. Bold. Okay. So, violation of the First Amendment requiring the display of the Ten Commandments in public schools constitutes a government-led establishment of the Christian religion, which is prohibited by the U.S. Constitution. Limits of civil authority. Based on Romans chapter 13, civil authorities hold no jurisdiction over matters concerning the relationship between individuals and God, the first four commandments. Their authority is limited to horizontal, interpersonal relationships, the fifth commandment, the fifth through the 10th commandments. Unintended consequences. Posting the commandments may backfire on those implementing the policy. It will likely prompt students and parents to examine the text for themselves, leading them to question why Sunday is emphasized as the day of worship instead of the 7-day Sabbath mentioned in the fourth commandment. So you see Oklahoma schools had Ryan Walters, teachers who won't teach Bible could lose license. So they're trying to punish people for not teaching Bible stuff in their schools. Is it a good thing to force/mandate teachers to teach Bible in public schools? No, they are trying to bring religion and force people into it. This is not God's will. Too many interpretations from many different teachers, or could be the same from a biased group of them who are still teaching error. Privileging of Christianity. Mandating the Bible in public schools constitutes a de facto government preference for the Christian religion, specifically privileging Sunday-based worship over other belief systems. Violation of rights. Requiring educators to teach religious content violates the liberty of conscience for both the student and the teachers, especially for those who do not subscribe to the Christian faith. What answers to people who want to use the Bible just for a historical record? So this is a commentary quote here. While I do not see the justice nor right in enforcing by law the bringing the Bible to be read in the public schools, yet there are some things which burden my mind in regard to our people making prominent their ideas on this point. The book which the state and Christian world have forced upon the notice of the people to be read in the schools, shall it not speak, and shall not the words be interpreted just as they are read? We shall be exceedingly cautious in every particular, lest we shut out a single ray of light from those who are in darkness. I remember particularly this point, that anything that should give the knowledge of God and Jesus Christ whom he hath sent should not be obstructed at all. Note to leave on. Praise ye the Lord, for it is good to sing praises unto our God, for it is pleasant and praise is comely. The Lord doeth build up Jerusalem, which he gathereth together the outcasts of Israel. Psalm chapter 147, verse 1 through 2. The Lord builds up and gathers. You only build up what was cast down. He heals the broken in heart. Don't forget these words when someone you trusted stabbed you in the back, when people leave you behind and forsake you. He healeth the broken in heart, and bindeth up their wounds. He telleth the number of the stars, he calleth them by their names. Psalm chapter 147, verse 3 through 4. Each star God made and created a relationship with and knows them by name. Likewise with us, God knows us by name and intends to give us a new one when we reach into heaven. Steps to Christ, page 100. Great is our Lord, and of great power is his and and his understanding is infinite. The Lord lifteth up the meek, he casteth the wicked down to the ground. Sing up Sing unto the Lord with thanksgiving. Sing praise upon the harp unto our God, who covereth the heaven with clouds, who prepareth rain for the earth, who maketh grass to grow upon the mountains. He giveth to the beast his food, to the young ravens which cry. Psalm chapter 147, verse 5 through 9. Threaten to be laid off in food shortage? Call on the Lord. But now thus saith the Lord that created thee, O Jacob, and he that formed thee, O Israel, fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name, thou art mine. Isaiah chapter 43, verse 1. And again, remember the 5 keys of survival: conversion, country living, having food and water on your property, evangelism, effective evangelism, and sharing to the less fortunate. Thank you guys for listening, and have a good day. See ya.